Well, welcome, Colorado Proud members, to our webinar today. We have got a great lineup. We're going to be talking about sustainable supply chains. And there's a really neat one that we're going to be talking about right here in Colorado, and these are all Colorado producers. And we've got Zach Gaines with Proximity Malt, Mark Arnish from Arnish Farms, Patrick Jost from Carver Brewing, and Derek Hearsing from Spare Keg Brew Works. Just a couple reminders. We'll mute our microphones while our speakers are presenting. This will just help reduce background noise. We want questions. We encourage them. I'll be checking for those. And if you have any questions after our webinar, feel free to reach out to the speakers themselves or reach out to me, Barb Howe, at barb.howe@state.co.us. Well, wonderful. I'm going to turn it over to our farmers because they've got an amazing story to tell. So, Derek, the floor is yours. Why don't you tell us about yourself and what you're doing?
All right, I'm Derek Hersink, and I've been growing barley here in the San Luis Valley in South Central Colorado. Since I graduated college at CSU in 2011. Been farming. My family's been farming down here. I believe we got into the valley in 1897, and we've been farming ever since then. So, been doing that. Back in 2015, 2016, I started really looking into doing some no-till farming. I do all the barley that I do. I do no-till. This last year, I started doing some field peas as well. And this year, I'm actually going to try and grow a whole crop of barley off of the residual nitrogen from the field peas. So try and get a little bit more sustainable, use what nature gave us instead of trying to put on so much. I then take all this cool regenerative barley that I've been making, and we take it to Proximity Malt, which is about 15 minutes away from where my farm is. They malt it up, and then another 12 miles back to our brewery in Alamosa, and we go ahead and make some of the state's best beer there. And our whole supply chain's only about 20 miles, and that gets us everything except our hops and our yeast. And the yeast all comes from Colorado, and the hops come from Colorado whenever we can find them. We don't go through a whole lot of hops, so we just try and find cheap bags of it here and there. But we really try and focus on being regenerative, figuring out ways that make our whole process, not just the farming, not just the brewing, but the entire thing more efficient, and make it so that we have a better ability to control the things we can and make sure that all the quality is there. And at the end of the day, we know where everything came from. We can tell people exactly what we did and how we did it and how we got them the product that they use. So that's been one of the coolest things, is being able to see the consumer really appreciate what I spent all year growing and making, and taking the time to do it the right way and not just the big corporate way, as a lot of places do anymore. So that's pretty much the gist of what I do, and how we do it.
Why is that important to you? Did you get customer feedback, asking, "Hey, how do we tighten up this supply chain?" Or kind of, I'm just curious.
How it really started, I wish it was something really novel like that, but Mark Martinez, the guy that I started Square Peg with, what we were before Spare Keg, we were just making beer in his garage, and it was tasting pretty good. And I said, "Hey, you make really good beer. Let's put it together." A lot more of the supply chain, and just trying to be as local as we can. I think that the nation as a whole is getting away from knowing where any of our food or ag products come from. So trying to start the process of telling that story in our little valley is what we did. And luckily it started to gain more traction, with all this the regenerative ag movement that's going on, proximity taking on all this regenerative malt program. That's been a huge help to get our story out more. But we were truly doing all this before it was the cool thing to do, before any of the things that they're pushing now. So it's cool to see other people like and try and do what you've been trying to do for a long time.
Well, definitely. No, it's amazing. So yeah, kudos to you. Well, we know you're traveling, so we'll hopefully keep you on here. Let's talk to Mark a bit. Mark, tell us about yourself and your farms and what you're doing.
Let's see if I can share my screen here really quick.
Perfect.
Let's go share that one. Can you see that? Perfect. So, a little bit about our farming operation. We're based out of Prospect Valley, Colorado, which is about 35 miles northeast of Denver. We farm in the shadows of the Rocky Mountain West, meaning that we can see the mountains from our farm, but we're far enough away from the I-25 corridor that it still feels rural. A little bit about our farming background. I'm a third generation farmer here in the Prospect Valley, Keensburg area, but I'm the first generation born here. You see, my grandparents immigrated here in 1952 from Austria, and what brought them to this community was actually the sugar beet. And so the sugar beet had been a big staple of our farming operation for generations, and until in 2017, I decided to take it out of our rotation. And the reason why I took it out of our rotation was it's a little bit harder on the soil. Returns were not satisfactory. It kind of goes back to what Derek Hersink had talked about before. Let's control those things that we can control. And as a sugar beet grower, I couldn't control the market. I couldn't control the marketplace for sugar like I could participate in a corn market or a wheat market. But even back into the early 2000s, we've always lived in the shadows of value added. And what value added means is we are not growing a commodity. We're trying to decouple that commodity and environment because our farm size just doesn't put us in a position to succeed with scale. My farming operation and in combination with my son's is only about 3,000 acres. And that might sound large to some, but I'm easily one of the smallest growers in my region. And so we continue to do those things that add value, that decommoditize the commodity, that allow us to go up the rung of value chain on that ladder and capture a little bit more of that vertical integration than some of our competitors around us. So the crops that I grow, we're in the specialty grains piece. So we grow wheat and barley for the craft beer and spirits industry. We grow food grade corn for spirits, and we're trying to target the tortilla sector. And we focus on growing seed wheat and seed barley. One of our flagship wheat varieties that we grow is bred out of Colorado State University. It's called Antero. And for the longest time as a seed grower, it was my number one variety. But the challenge was that wheat that was produced out of that genetic makeup didn't make very good bread. And I was about one of the last Antero growers in the state of Colorado, and we were just about ready to throw our hat in the ring when a maltster out of Fort Collins, a guy by the name of Chris Schooley, found that that wheat variety actually made incredible alcohol, specifically beer. And so it's still our flagship wheat variety. We go into troubadour malts with that variety. We go into proximity from time to time with that variety. But really, the hallmark of our operation is our seed barley business. With the help of Lima Grain and with the help of Zach Gaines, we were able to bring barley varieties into our farm that hadn't been grown in this region for some time. And we continue to grow those seed varieties and ship that seed supply to probably about 15 or 20 different states right now in one foreign country. And so that's really the exciting part of what we do in our operation. Here this spring, we put together a new collaboration between New Belgium Brewery, Proximity Malts, and Montana State University, where we were going to grow varietals in our area to try to see if we can drought proof our barley crop, meaning that we use less water. whether it's in a dry land practice, maybe it's in a limited irrigation practice or whatnot. But we're trying tomorrow's varieties today on our farm, and none of that would happen without a lot of the collaboration and relationships that we've built through time. Rounding out our crops, we also grow black-eyed peas for seed. It's adding in that legume into our rotation so that we can sequester a little bit of that nitrogen. And our hope is just like Derek's, where we hope to be able to rotate a barley crop or a wheat crop right in behind that legume the following year and live off of what that product or that crop has done for us. Last but not least, we grow a couple of other crops like alfalfa and sorghum, and that's specifically for the dairy sector. Regenerative agriculture. It's interesting that this term has come up here in the last, say, 8 or 10 years because we call this production agriculture on our farm. Many of the things that are now done today in regenerative agriculture, we've been doing for a very long time. The challenge was we just haven't been telling that story very well. We've been building on soil health since the 1960s. We're trying to get back to levels that we achieved maybe 40 and 50 years ago. And we do that by building organic matter, reintroducing more animal manures into our rotation, leaving more residue on the land. We till our farms maybe 20% what we did just 15 years ago. And it's all driving towards soil health, but then that also helps us enhance and manage our water to a greater degree. We farm on a designated basin in Prospect Valley called Lost Creek. And as you know, water touches everything in this state. And so water is a finite resource. And so in a state that counts every water droplet, we've got to make every water droplet count. And then the last thing we do is we don't keep all of this information proprietary to ourselves. We really enjoy reaching out to other growers across the state and across the country to share some of our experiences that we've had on our farm, to learn from others. This last summer, I was invited to go up to South Dakota and speak at a field day about growing wheat. And as as much as I was supposed to be there telling others how we grow some of our award-winning wheats, I think I learned more from those growers up in South Dakota than I think I imparted on them. And so that's what we do at Arnish Farms, and we're sure thankful for the invitation to participate in today's program.
Well, that's a great story. It's neat how, your grandparents came. I am just curious, as someone who is not a farmer, why does the Antero wheat not make good bread?
Ah, well, I can give you somewhat of a farmer answer to that, but I think Zach Gaines will likely be able to give you a much better answer to that. Uh, a lot of it has to do with the way the varietal was bred. It was bred for a lot of agronomic properties and qualities that responded very well in the field. But when it goes into the milling side of things, the glucan strands and some of the falling numbers that are attributed from the starch and the proteins of that wheat composition just don't make it a desirable flour variety. Um, Conversely, because of its low protein content and some of those things, it's just rocket fuel on the other side of the equation. And Derek and I had a really interesting collaboration with Antero a few years ago with a beer that he brewed for the Colorado Farm Bureau Centennial Celebration. And we may have grown it, but the magic happened in his brew house.
Neat. No, that's really fascinating. I would not have thought about it that way, but sure, imagine it. Certain certain varieties do better at, fermentation versus trying to rise and make bread, right? So
Right.
interesting. Well, thank you for that. Great. Zach, you're with Proximity Grains, and boy, you've just been fantastic in pulling all of this together for us. I defer to you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me. And, just to say a few words about Derek and Mark, on top of being exceptional farmers, exceptional quality barley that they produce, something that makes them really special is they're progressive. They're looking to try new things. They're looking for partnerships. And, at our place in the supply chain, a lot of the progress we make is because because of people like this. And Patrick Jost would be the same way, looking at opportunities to bring in new raw materials, find new value streams, because regen malt, which I'll talk about in a minute, and introducing a new barley variety to a supply chain, like those are not easy things to do, and they're absolutely impossible by yourself. So you have to have quality partnerships with people who are looking to find value and work together. So very cool to be on a call with these three gentlemen today. And yeah, Zach Gaines, been with Proximity Malt for about 4 years. I live up in Fort Collins, Colorado. And yeah, Regen Malt has been a really exciting project for us, and it starts at the farm. Essentially, what we're doing is telling the story through data and other ways of what Mark and Derek are doing on their acres. And we're hoping that we can take what they're doing. I mean, we're a throughput in our supply chain and provide a product to people like Patrick and Carvers to essentially tell a sustainability story and provide the opportunity to connect a person, in Colorado making a purchasing decision with a farm in their same state, and actually allowing them to help promote regenerative agriculture, because it does have a lot of value. I have a few slides that I'll run through and tell you a little bit about our program. Can y'all see that okay? Okay. Yeah, so I mean, regenerative agriculture for the craft brewing supply chain, that is what Regen Malt is about. A malting company, there aren't a whole lot of us. We have a lot of relationships with farms, a lot of relationships with brewers and distillers. So we're kind of at a facilitation point to understand what's happening, and again, kind of create a supply chain Colorado highway for value. For those of you who aren't real familiar with Proximity, we have a malt house down in Monte Vista, like Derek said, about 12 miles from his farm. We also have another malt house out in Laurel, Delaware, on the Mid-Atlantic region, both the exact same size and same setup. And this is a look at our sourcing footprint. When our founders created Proximity, they wanted our malt houses to be near good barley. In the middle of those red circles are where our two malt houses are located. That's a 50-mile radius around there. And in Colorado, a lot of our barley is grown down in the San Luis Valley, where Derek is. But we do grow some winter barley on the western slope. We work with Mark and Brett Arnish in Keensburg, and we actually source some barley from a couple really great producers up in Wheatland as well. But the idea was we wanted to take miles out of the supply chain and actually utilize the knowledge and ability of local farms to procure our barley. And it's the same thing out in Laurel. I know that's not today's conversation, but a lot of producers out there, they're growing winter malting barley, and we're contracting that in Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. But in terms of Regen Malt, we feel like Regen Malt is a new market class of malt products. Kind of in broad strokes, we have conventionally grown barley, and we do have a few organic producers, and Regen is different. And what differentiates is it's delivered to our customers with a verified data package, essentially telling the story of what these farms are doing in terms of regenerative practices. These are a few examples of beers that are being brewed right now with Regen Malt. We've had this product in the marketplace for almost a year, and are working with 65 different breweries across the U.S. But Cultivate from Incendiary, that's a beer being made in North Carolina. Stablecraft is in Virginia. Tiny Footprints is their Regen beer. And then one of our first partners right out of the gate was New Belgium. The New Belgium Brewing Company, in terms of their sustainability and the amount of time and effort and resources they put towards that, they're a pillar in the national brewing industry in terms of what they're doing for sustainability, and they are very much students of their supply chain. So there's opportunities for like Mark mentioned, to work with them on sourcing new genetics. They've put a lot of wind in the sails of this program. So it's great to have partners all across the US, but New Belgium has been really fantastic. We also are working with the USDA as a part of their Partnerships for Climate Smart Commodities grant. So proximity was one of 141 projects selected to create climate smart products. And so beers that are brewed with Mark's barley and Derek's barley are in fact climate smart commodities. They're reducing carbon footprints, sequestering carbon. And really for this partnership, we report to the USDA quarterly along with the other 140 projects. And really, we want to accomplish three things as a part of this program. We want to incentivize producers to take on regenerative agricultural practices or reward them for what they're doing already, which is the case with Mark and Derek. We want to measure what's happening on their farms so we can tell that story. And then we want to create premium markets and promote climate smart beer. This is a quick look just at kind of our definition of regen ag, and I want to be careful here because this is not the definition. This is our definition as it relates to our producers, and we really kind of center the program around principles of soil health, which is reducing or eliminating tillage, utilizing cover crops when it's possible, really trying to keep living roots in the soil for as many days out of a year as we can on the barley acres. And we want our producers to grow excellent malt barley, but we don't only want them to grow malt barley. So having a diversified rotation is something that's very valuable to us. And then if possible, integrating livestock in a way. Cows are great manure creators and spreaders. And when they graze, they're kind of putting plants without killing them into a kind of hyper photosynthetic state where they're pulling more carbon out of the atmosphere and sinking it in the soil. And what happens when producers utilize these things is they do sequester carbon. Out here in Colorado, when producers can reduce their water need, like Derek and Mark are doing, because their soil structure is actually making that water and nutrients go further, that's a huge win. In the mid-Atlantic, it's the opposite problem. Plenty of water out there. A lot of farms growing barley near the Chesapeake Bay, so we're worried about nitrates being leached out into waterways. That soil structure holds that in there. Erosion is a huge one. We do see a reduction in synthetic chemical use over time with regen ag. And then it kind of at the heart of it is just increasing soil health and biodiversity. So that's a quick 2-minute, just kind of what the program, kind of the core principles of soil health that guide our program. And the next thing that we do is we need to find out why and present a case to why this should mean something to someone like Patrick Jose and Carver or anybody else. And really, we found that there are kind of two big buckets in terms of emissions. We do work with some larger breweries who have benchmarked their carbon footprint. They've potentially even made, SBTI type level goals where they want to actually, they've made a Paris Climate Accord, reduce their carbon footprint by 1.5 degrees. So there could actually be a monetary value in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. But we find that most of it is an identity focus. Brewers who have sustainability as a part of their core values. This is a word cloud. We did some research early on and asked a bunch of our brewing customers, what does sustainability mean for you? And you'll see it means a lot of things to them, but you don't see carbon in there. So we want to make sure that the program is addressing the needs and identity of all of our different customers. And so we're trying to provide data, if they want to have regen malt, as a part of their branding, as a part of their value, we provide some information there, including a full data set of digital marketing assets. So yeah, we understand that we're taking something that Mark and Derek have given us, turning it into malt, and we're handing that off. And at that point, it becomes part of Patrick's story or whomever's story. So we're really, again, at a facilitation point for something really cool. And this has been a really a challenging but very rewarding project for everybody at Proximity. So I will stop sharing and stop there.
Yeah, that is really cool. I love how, so we have, these Colorado farmers, and one of your operations is here, and how it's all coming together, right? And I also really like what you said in the beginning about how they're progressive. I think that's something that really needs to be shouted out to our farmers and ag producers here in Colorado, and probably across the country. They are progressive. They are looking at how to be better all the time, and so I think that's
They're
a really
incredible. They're
important
incredible
message.
partners.
Yeah, very important message. Well, excellent. Well, let's talk to Patrick now, because that's where the malt then goes, right? So now we're going to get to, and I know Derek also brews beer, but we're going to get to the good stuff where, where we're actually making something we can drink. So, Patrick, tell us about yourself and what you're doing.
Right on. Well, my name's Patrick Jose. I'm the head brewer over at Carver Brewing down in Durango in the little southwest corner that we love so much. I've got a couple of slides myself that I can share here. But I have been the head brewer at Carver's for the last 10 years. And Carver's has a very long history in the state. 1983 is when we started up in Winter Park as just a little bakery. A few years after that, they decided that maybe Durango was a little bit more their speed, more sun, less cold, and moved down here, have a beautiful little bakery right down on Main Street. And it was full service from bagels to wedding cakes, everything under the sun. And our relationship with ground wheat and other grains is just as long as it is with beer. So in 1988, when the state decided to allow brew pub licensing uh, after prohibition for the first time, we picked up the license right there at the end of the year. We actually had the second brew pub license in the state right after the Wind Coop that's in Denver. And then we've been making beer ever since. We kind of expanded a little bit, added a little beer garden, full service bar. And as everything in the beverage industry entered the building, the things in the baking industry left the building. And we are less bakery and much more brewery now over these years. So, but yeah, we've been in the same location in Durango since we moved in, and has not moved. We've become kind of an institution here. And most people that have ever been to Carver's have enjoyed at least a pint or two or a burger here at the restaurant. And Bill and Jim had ran that all the way until about 3 years ago when they handed it off to Colin and Claire Carver, Bill's kids. And so we are now a second generation brewery in the state. And looking forward to the future, it's nothing but really good things. We have a commitment to sustainability and a commitment to Durango and everything that we do. So we like to make fun and interesting things. And with that in mind, when Proximity announced their regenerative barley and their whole regen malt line, we jumped right on it because that fits right into what we've been talking about for a very long time. And now it's a reality. So it's this beer that we made is, we call it Regen Ale. I had to add a space because people decided to call it Reganale, which was fun for a little bit, but let's go with Regen Ale instead. It's a regenerative and regional beer. So everything that goes into this beer, from the water coming right out of the Florida River here in town to the barley and wheat in it, it's coming from here in the state, from Monte Vista at the malt facility there. It's only 137 miles from door to door. And then all of our hops are grown up in Montrose that we use in this particular beer. And that's only 100 miles away. So we have shrunk our standard distance of how we source our ingredients by 90% at least, I'd say, because most things are on average from 1,500 to 2,000 miles away from us that we had been ordering. So now we've eliminated that from our equation. And then all of our yeast comes from Colorado Springs, a supplier there. And beyond just making this one beer, we really want to make all of our beers along these lines. And with regen malt, that's a total possibility. From base malts to specialty malts, we are actively replacing certain malts with all regen line because that's what we want to buy. That's what we need the farmers to know is this is a product that we really want and we want to sell to people after we've had our hands on it, of course, and people already just love it. I mean, I put in some funny quotes down there in the bottom, but I honestly do feel like it tastes just like Colorado. I mean, it's delicious, it's bright, it's full of energy, and makes you just want to have at least one more, maybe two. um, but by choosing these kinds of beers at a brewery like us, you're proving that we can make beer just as or even better than the beer we are already making, but using all local, sustainably sourced ingredients. Uh, it is also going to inherently improve the environment. We like to say that that's saving the planet one beer at a time. Sustainable businesses make a sustainable planet, right? So we need to make sure that everyone knows this is where I would like to spend our dollars, and these are the kinds of products that I choose to buy with my dollars as well. So I think that by making this beer, it's a step for us to slowly replace everything and have an entire Colorado supply chain for all of our products that we offer and all of the products that we make for not just beer but food as well. So I think what the guys at Proximity are doing, what Derek and Mark are doing, are incredibly important for the future of not just my industry, but all of our industries in the state. And yeah, this has been great. Thank you guys for having me on here.
Well, that's fantastic. And you said you obviously point out a lot of really good things. Maybe for you personally, why is this so important? Like, what does it mean to you?
To me personally, I food is always better fresh.
Yeah,
That's the
sure.
bottom line. And if I'm getting my ingredients for my food product that I'm making here, then it's going to inherently just be better because the ingredients are fresh. They aren't traveling across the country to get here, or the world for that matter, because
Mhm.
I do buy plenty of ingredients and things from across the ocean. So to me, it's important to try and supply myself locally. And by doing that, it's just going to provide a better product at the end.
Definitely. And I think all of you have said it too, but the whole community supporting local, and local meaning Colorado, right? Doesn't mean it has to be the same exact town, but supporting our state, I think, is just fantastic.
I agree. It really resonates with our customers too. And we tell the story of any of our beers, but this one in particular, they're here on vacation to visit our beautiful state. And we tell them all about this beer where everything was made and grown and created right here. And it's
Yeah.
just for you on this trip. And they love it. It really resonates with them.
I think it does. And I think it's cool, and I think what's really neat about the panel today is people will be able to see maybe they've tried the beers that have been made at Carver or with Derek. And now they can see the faces that are really behind this, that these are real people, you're real farmers, you're real companies that are doing this right here. So I think that's awesome. Are there any other last thoughts you'd like to leave with our Colorado Proud members when thinking about sustainable supply chains?
I would, just one thought is that, beer is a great story for Colorado. It's some of the best beer in the country comes out of this state. But there is so much, I think people think of Colorado and they think of mountains, which there's plenty of, but there are so many there's such a great ag presence and story in Colorado that I think, whether you're a brewer or, anyone where if you're bringing in a raw material that comes from a farm, boy, reach out. do a little, you can connect. I mean, this story is amazing, but it doesn't have to be unique, that we're doing. I think you've got, again, exceptional farms in the state in a lot of different areas. And there are a lot of possible connections where you keep the value and the relationships within the state and kind of create um, a new or different kind of value. And it may just because you don't know someone yet. So reach out. That would be the message I would leave everyone with.
That's a good point. I think, we have so many food items here and beverage, but food items here in Colorado that, look for that made here in Colorado with Colorado ingredients. And of course, look for the Colorado Proud logo, but you're exactly right. And it's neat as more and more companies look at how can I source locally and really call out that I buy my grains from a true Colorado farmer or my vegetables, my fruit. So very, very good message.
I've got one here that sometimes gets lost in the whole regenerative ag or sustainability discussion, and that is profitability.
Mhm.
Often that one kind of gets kicked to the curb, and I've heard even some in my own family say, "Well, you can't build on soil health and be profitable at the same time."
Yeah.
That's simply not true. The two go hand in hand. Our soils are alive, and when we take care of them, great things happen. And what we found is we reduce our tillage trips and we bring in more biologicals. We work on our microbiology in our soil that great things happen. And I think the efficiency of doing that all within this state, not even just talking about what's happening on the farm, but the efficiencies that get drugged through the malt house and then finally to the brewer. It's a win-win-win situation.
That's a good point. And I know Zach in his slides, he pointed out the use of actual animals on farmland, to really kind of help with just even the manure spreading. But I think you're right. It probably does get lost. People think, oh, it's going to be too expensive and we raise cattle and I think we try to do it as natural and regenerative as possible as well, because we have to keep using the land, right? We rely on that just like you do as a farmer. We rely on that to feed our animals. So we can't not be taking care of it. So very good point. Patrick, anything on your side? I know you mentioned you're moving everything to the regen malt. When will that transition be complete?
Well, it's probably going to be complete in the next, 6 months to a year, I'd
Oh,
say, because I have some stock of some things that I have to go through, and they go
sure.
through a little bit slower. But I mean, we're really close already with the bulk of our ingredients, and I mean, it's my favorite thing about it is it's just not hard to do anymore. I don't have to seek out these ingredients from 100 different suppliers. I can call Zach at proximity and, well, anyone at proximity for that matter, and get what I need. And I can get it within 24 hours if I really need it.
Oh,
And the same thing's true for my hops and Montrose. And uh, it's just convenient to be able to do that. When we first started, there was nobody supplying brewer's yeast
mhm.
on a level that anyone needed. I mean, nobody had it. You'd have to literally fly across the ocean to find a brewery that had a yeast strain that you liked. Now I can call up a guy in Colorado Springs and have it grown up and sent to me right away. So there's not a question of can you make beer with all Colorado ingredients anymore. The answer is yes, I can and I am.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, it's neat to see that change has been made, that you don't have to search the world now looking for that one strain or that what you like, that you can get it right here.
Yep. And I can get some of the best examples of those things in the world that are grown right here as well.
Well, you guys, that was fantastic. And, to all our Colorado Proud members that will watch this, reach out to these guys, talk to them. And Zach is exactly right. This doesn't have to be a unique sustainable supply chain. We can do this, I imagine, in Colorado with a lot of different things. But certainly these gentlemen have great stories and are, you know, great people to talk to if you have questions how you can be doing this as well. So I want to thank you guys again. And for our Colorado Proud members, our April webinar will be focused on getting ready for the farmers market season. It's hard to believe it's already upon us, but thankfully it is. We're coming out of winter. So I want to thank you guys again, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And please, Colorado Proud members, reach out to these guys and talk to them.
Thank you very much for having us on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
thank
you.
you.